I'm Gina. Welcome back to Tight Ship Mama. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. I make a new video every Monday where I talk about running your home like a tight ship. And we do this with budgeting, meal planning, implementing routine, decluttering, and a little personal development. So on Sundays, if you follow me on Facebook, I put up our menu for the week. So this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner that our family is eating. And usually once a week, we have bagels with cream cheese and salmon for breakfast. So a friend of mine sent me a text that night and she said, "Hey, I noticed that you're having bagels. What do you eat while the kids are having bagels?" And she asked me that because I have recently gone gluten and corn free. So I've been asked a lot on this channel about my fitness and my health and that sort of thing. And it's a really hard story to tell. There's no easy path that I can tell you. So I think what I'll do is just start sprinkling it in every now and then. I think you guys know by now that I'm a runner, so that's a big part of it. I think you also know that we try to eat as healthy as possible. That's another huge part of it. What you might not know is that I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis 7 years ago after giving birth to my daughter that is now 7 years old. And I had been training for a half marathon before I got pregnant with her. And I thought it was gonna be my last half marathon and I was gonna go big or go home. So I trained really hard and I got my best time still to this day. But my feet started hurting and I was just kind of getting aches and pains, and I just chalked it up to training really hard for that half marathon. Then I got pregnant. And pregnancy can put arthritis or rheumatoid into remission. So I just kind of, went through that pregnancy, and she was my first summer baby. So she's an end of August baby. So I'd never been that pregnant in the summer. And it was a really tough summer to be pregnant. Just physically, I just could hardly move. And again, I just chalked it up to, I already had 2 kids. I was tired. It was summer. I was huge. And just kind of thought, this is pregnancy. When I deliver, it's going to be fine. But by the time she was a week old, the arthritis was like full on, and I couldn't even lift her as a 7-pound little baby. So that's a whole other story about the whole rheumatoid journey. But I immediately started playing with my diet and thinking like, I gotta hit this, because so she was born at the end of August. I couldn't even get in to see my rheumatologist until Christmas Eve. So there was a few months there where I was just really, really struggling. So that's when I started playing around with like paleo diet and gluten-free and all these things. And I lost the baby weight I kid you not, in 2 weeks. But it was not a healthy way to lose the weight, because I was so overwhelmed with, 1, I just had a new baby. 2, I have this disease coming on very quickly. And 3, I didn't have a plan on how I was actually going to change my diet and go gluten-free. So what ended up happening was I just wouldn't eat because I didn't know what to eat. So it's been 7 years of me doing different medicines and tweaking my diet and just trying to figure out what works for me, because my ultimate goal is to be off of medicines. So recently I really am getting to the point where the medicines are getting higher and higher. I'm at the highest level of medicine that you can be on. And sometimes the drugs are worse than the disease. And so I really want to get off them. That's my goal, is to be completely off medicines. So I thought, I am going to do this one more time. I'm going to go really hardcore gluten-free and corn-free for a year. I'm going to give it a year. And if there's not a significant decrease, I'm not off my medicines, then I'm probably going to ease up and go back to the pastas that I love. And bread that I love. But so I'm a little over a month into this, and it's really not as hard as it was the first time, mainly because I'm rested. I don't have a newborn, and I have a plan, and I've learned over the 7 years how to do this better. So really, it's not hard for me to do gluten-free dinners. And if you see my menus, a lot of our dinners are gluten-free, because for the past couple of years, I have been gluten light. So that would be I would give myself one thing a day. So if I had a bagel for breakfast, then I would try not to have a sandwich for lunch. And then usually our dinners are gluten-free. Unless it's pasta, it's pretty much gluten-free dinners. So I don't want my whole family to have to do this just to accommodate me, okay? So it's really actually quite easy if you want to be gluten-free and your kids or your rest of your family are not. And this is just how I do it. So you'll see in this video here, we had bagels and lox today. So the kids had what they have, and I just substitute this gluten-free bread that I buy at Aldi. And if you haven't checked out Aldi for gluten-free products, they're really inexpensive and they're actually quite tasty. So I just swap out the breads and I'll have the same exact breakfast as the kids. You can see in this video here, this was dinner last night. We had pasta and same thing. I made my gluten-free pasta first, and then I just pulled out my pasta with the slotted spoon, and then I used that same water and I made the family's dinner. So it's a few more minutes of boiling and cooking pasta, but it's actually quite easy. And the rest of the time for dinners, we are just eating good, wholesome, full, good grain food. So we eat a lot of quinoa. You can see it's the end of the month, so I need quinoa. We eat a lot of rice. Tonight we're having rice and chicken. But I also, instead of doing, sides of noodles or things like that, I usually will add an extra veggie. So, it's a beautiful time of year for butternut squash, and I just did that video yesterday where I talked about winter squash salad. This is acorn squash that we got from the farm, and like sweet potatoes and regular potatoes. And I think it's actually really not that hard to do if you want to give it a go. Another tip I have for you if you're thinking about doing this, or how I do this, is that to not think of breakfast foods only as breakfast foods. So that's where I really struggled the first time. Was like I would wake up and I would think, well, if I'm not having toast or bagels, like what am I gonna have? English muffins. So we do more oatmeal now. I don't mind eating leftover salad from dinner the night before. I know some people don't like that because the dressing is already on it, but I don't mind it. And what I'll do is I will fry an egg and put an egg on top. I'm also going to link in the description box below my friend Lori's recipe for getting greens in your morning. So I will make what she's making in the video attached below, and I will freeze it, and then I'll put that in a pan and let that thaw out a little bit, and then cook that up with an egg. I also don't think of just breakfast foods as like cereal and eggs. Sometimes I will eat leftover dinner for breakfast, and that's just kind of my way of getting some nourishment in and some, warding off the hunger and the hangry in the morning. And you're just getting food in your body. It's just fuel. It doesn't have to be, just because it's chicken doesn't mean it has to be a dinner food, okay? So I would think of that way. And then lettuce is your other best friend for lunches. So instead of a tortilla wrap, I would just do a lettuce wrap. So that's another thing. Like you can do lettuce around tacos, you can do lettuce around BLTs, you can do lettuce around the salmon and the bacon that we had this morning. So that's another thing that you can keep in mind. It really is just a healthier way because you're always thinking about what can I substitute instead of this bread. Where you have to watch and where I still get into trouble is I will reach for potato chips because they're gluten-free. But they're not healthy. So you just have to watch. Just because it's gluten-free, if it's a cookie, it's a cookie, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. So I'm also aware of what I'm putting in my body as far as the sugars go and that sort of thing. So I don't buy cookies and that kind of thing. If we want cookies, we make cookies. That's been my policy since I had kids because it was just a budget decision. And now I have a daughter that loves to bake. So that's that. So anyway, I hope that answered a few questions that I get from time to time about different ways that we live. And it's just what I'm hoping will help cure my aches and pains and decrease the inflammation a little bit more and get me back to where I want to be health-wise. Have a great week, and I will see you next Monday. Take care.